So after my first Britannia video, I really wanted to set one up with vintage peep sights. And I got a scruffy Britannia, I got some vintage BSA peep sights, and put this together. Now, a few people asked on the other video how you take these apart, so I thought this would be a good excuse to show you how you take them apart, and then after that I'm going to show you how I tuned this one up a little bit and made it much better to shoot. So taking these apart is really easy. It's probably the easiest air rifle to take apart, really. So to get access to the spring, the first thing you have to do is take this little keeper screw out of the back, and this holds in a knurled sort of end cap which holds back the spring. So you take the keeper screw out, and then originally it said to use an old penny piece, but a big coin like a 2p or something will do, and you put it in the slot, turn it a little bit, and it will spring out under spring tension. Then you take that out. It's got a long rod, spring guide, the spring, little top out I made. So that's how you gain access to the spring. And then to get access to the rest of the rifle, you really only need to take 2 screws out. So you have this smaller screw, which is what stops the piston travelling back too far for your 2 power settings. That means you can slide the piston out. And then to get the cocking arm disconnected, you can take either of 2 different screws out. So you can either take the smaller front screw out, which just takes the cocking arm off, or if you want to take the breech off as well, this bigger screw will take the breech and cocking arm off in one go. So I'm going to take that out because then we get access to the thumb catch and breech assembly. Also, this is a much bigger bolt, so I don't mind taking it out a few times. Whereas the smaller one is a bit small and I don't want to keep taking it out repeatedly. So you disconnect the breech and then you can pull the cocking arm out, which also holds the trigger. And that gives you access to the sear. So the trigger pushes the sear at the front there, which pulls the sear out at the back. And then you need to push that out to get the piston out. And then the piston slides out the back. And that's pretty much everything you need to take out really to service it. So you know, you can get access to change your piston seal or do whatever you want to do. So that's pretty much it, I think, for taking it apart. It breaks down. You've got the spring, piston, and then on the breech and cocking arm you've got access to all the stuff you need to do with the trigger and the barrel. And then the rear portion of the rifle houses the sear and also gives you access to the breech seal and the thumb catch. So by taking out 3 screws and 1 end plug, you can take the entire rifle apart. It's not normally that easy. So that's how you take them apart. Now we're going to have a look at how I tuned it up a bit to try and get it shooting a bit nicer. When I first got this, it was doing 7 foot-pounds, but the shot cycle was horrible. It was very harsh, had quite a crack to it, and it wasn't nice to shoot. And the cocking slots on these are just sort of near your face when you shoot them, so you're kind of very aware if the shot cycle is not very nice. So yeah, I tried to just maybe soften the shot cycle a little bit, and these are the things that I did. So first things first, change the spring. So the spring was bent, so I fitted a cut down Air Sporter spring, and also checked that the seals were all sealing correctly, because sometimes if there's a leak it gets a bit slammy. So new piston seal, just a 1-inch leather seal on there, and then on the breech there's a leather seal. So I gently took that out and then packed it out with a little disc of greaseproof paper, and then that pushed it out enough that it was sealing, definitely sealing well. So then put them back together, still doing 7 foot-pounds and still pretty harsh. So the next thing to try was a beer can piston sleeve. what this does is it locks the spring in nice and snugly, and it cuts down on vibrations. So when it's in and it's cocked, it's nice and tight, and yeah, that cuts down the noise quite a bit as well. And then the other thing I did was to sleeve the transfer port down with a bit of brass tubing, so it went down from 4mm to 3mm. And what that does is it restricts the airflow a bit, and you get a little bit of a cushion so it doesn't slam so much. So I put it back together, tried it again, and the shot cycle was much nicer, very gentle, but the power had gone down to 5.5 foot-pounds. So the next thing to check was that the piston was heavy enough. And the way to do that is you shoot 3 different weights of pellet, ideally from the same brand, because you end up with similarly shaped pellets. And if it prefers the lighter pellet, that normally means that the piston's too light. That's because the skirt on the lighter pellet is less rigid than the heavier pellet, and it's easier to push it down the barrel. So if you've got a lighter piston, you can push that down the barrel, but a stiffer, heavier pellet will make the piston bounce back before it's pushed it down the barrel. So you end up with lighter pellets giving you a higher power output than heavier pellets, which is exactly what I got with this. So that told me I needed to add some weight to the piston. Now the piston on this Britannia weighs only 150 grams, which is pretty light. Probably because it's got these slots cut out of the sides and it doesn't have a cocking rod. So to add some weight, I had a stainless steel top hat made, which protrudes a little bit into the spring, and this added 50 grams. So it took the whole piston up to 200 grams. So I fitted this, and it took the power up to 8 foot-pounds, just under 8 foot-pounds. And the shot cycle was lovely, really smooth, nice and gentle, and quite quiet. So fantastic, just what I wanted to do. So there were a few other little bits of fettling that I should mention. One really is to do with spring guides. So the original spring guide on the back of this rod is too small for this spring, so I sleeved that to make it a good fit. And then that combined with the front spring guide of the top hat, when you compress it, it's a full spring guide for the whole spring. So when that's compressed, it's locked in very nicely. That worked pretty well. And another thing I did was replace the spring that holds the trigger forward. I put a much lighter spring in, so it reduced the trigger pull weight and also kept it nicely forward, so it feels like a little 2-stage trigger. And there's also a spring behind the thumb catch, and I actually put a much stronger spring in that, just so that it locks the barrel down even better, so you get a better barrel seal. So that's it. I'm very happy with the results. I'll do a full video demonstrating the shot cycle and do some accuracy tests in the future, but for now I hope there's some stuff in here that you might find useful. Big thanks to Shed Tuner from the Airgun BBS forum, who gave me a lot of guidance on this, and he was very, very helpful. And I just sort of went through a process of elimination with it really until it got to where I wanted. So brilliant. Okay, well, thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more. Cool. See you next time. Bye.